appreciate it. And I know like they teach you like make eye contact as you read, but this is very particular and it's kind of long, so I'm just gonna start and read right off the page. Okay. So, my best friend's great-grandpa died. His name is Bill McElroy, and he was a uranium miner in my home county of Cibola, New Mexico. I did not grow up with grandparents, so my best friend's grandparents were the closest thing I had to them. I was not close to Bill, but he was still an older paternal figure who watched over me as a child. He had struggled with pulmonary fibrosis as a result of being a miner that caused his lungs to be at 50% impairment for 20 years. In July of 2021, he was diagnosed with lung cancer, increasing his lung impairment to 100%. He passed away 2 months later in September. I could feel the loss, especially through my best friend and her mom. Bill had made a huge impact in the community as a supervisor of the Parks and Recreation Department in the village of Milan. His legacy lives on through the positive changes he made for families, such as building and implementing the soccer field, the pumpkin patch, parks, and the burning of the Malpai Man. Shauna, Bill's granddaughter and mother of my best friend, mentioned during her interview that he was such an amazing human being and hard worker. She believes his work ethic is why he lived so long despite being sick. He never let his health affect his life and thrived despite the adversities he faced. Unfortunately, at the time of his death, I was too young to understand the implications of his cancer diagnosis and its connection to his career as a miner. I knew my hometown Grant was a hot spot for cancer because of the uranium mines, but I never saw mining as something that touched my personal life. This exhibition and the research I conducted not only honors Bill, but those whose health and lives have been affected because of uranium mining in Cibola County. I would like to take the time to acknowledge that the scope of contamination extends to the sacred lands of the Acoma, Laguna, Zuni, Hopi, and Navajo people, including the mountain Sumsif, translating to Turquoise Mountain. It's commonly known as Mount Taylor and is one of the 4 sacred mountains, making the cardinal directions and the boundaries of the Neta, the traditional Navajo homeland. To begin, I need to define some vocabulary. Uranium tailings are primarily the sandy process waste material from a conventional uranium mill that contains radioactive decay products. Radon is defined as being a radioactive gas. As stated by the American Cancer Society, radon is a cancer-causing element because when radon gas in the air breaks down into tiny radioactive elements, it can be breathed in and get lodged in the lining of the lungs where they can give off radiation. This radiation can damage lung cells and eventually lead to lung cancer. My research began by looking into archives and how Grant survived and thrived as a mining town. Through researching, I discovered my goal was not to educate others, but to educate myself so conversation could be revitalized to combat the normalcy pertaining to uranium lime contamination and illnesses. This body of work also involves a video and sound piece where I utilize the cyanotypes at the site of the tailings and the surrounding subdivision in a performance piece, which is the video playing in the other room. Homestake Mining Company is one of the only companies doing reclamation work in Cibola County as ordered by the federal government. Reclamation work entails stabilizing the land and cleaning up any radioactive waste. I began my research knowing that Homestake was purchasing housing surrounding the uranium tailings and was having homeowners they bought from sign NDAs. I was able to speak to someone who sold but did not sign an NDA, her reasoning for not signing being the health, safety, and well-being of her children. She wanted to be able to take legal action if her children ever developed cancer. I personally know 2 families who sold to Homestake and moved out of state, and 1 family who sold and now leases from Homestake. I chose to bring the site to the gallery because this body of work is so grounded in location. I needed to bring as much of the tailings as I could to you. Homestake's uranium tailings are within 5 miles of the subdivision being bought up, with some sections being directly across the street from houses. There's a sign posted around the tailings saying safety first, think safe, work safe. I thought that the placement of the sign was ironic in relation to the subdivision, so I made my own cyanotype sign to combat theirs, urging viewers to think safe, live safe. I wanted to post it at the house in the subdivision my mom and I are fond of, but when I went to install, they're in the middle of demolishing the house. And I have a print in that other room. It's like an interior, it looks like a sunroom, and that's that house. I lost my place. So yeah, when I wanted to post that cyanotype sign at the house in the subdivision my mom and I are fond of, but when I went to install, they're in the middle of demolishing the house. As unfortunate and sad as the demolition was, I used it as an opportunity to create part of my video and sound piece playing in the reception room. The radon banner I created was also used in that piece, which I installed directly in front of the tailings off Highway 605 so the public could see I plan to post a sign in the same spot after the exhibition until it gets removed. I entered this body of work with a very real fear of misrepresenting people and spreading misinformation. I'm a studio art major. I consider my understanding of science to be limited. I spoke with Jose Serrato Corrales, an environmental, chemical, and biological engineer at UNM to better understand the science behind reclamation and radon. He mentioned that the art is needed to translate science so the public can better understand studies. It was a great reminder as to why I wanted to do this work, but the fear still lingered. I began to look at this piece as a method to teach myself and create a response piece out of what I had learned. I learned that dominant narratives control the discourse surrounding uranium contamination and hope to call attention to counter-narratives. To begin a conversation encourages change. As for medium, I chose digital photography and a photographic process called cyanotype printing to make my banners. Cyanotype photography is a cameraless technique that involves laying an object on paper, fabric, or skulls in some cases, coated with a UV-sensitive chemical and exposing it. After exposing it, you rinse whatever you coated in water and it turns blue where UV light hit and white where it did not. I printed on transparency paper and overlaid that on my coated fabric to get the text on my banners. I chose to use cyanotype because of the blue. If I'm calling attention to an issue that needs to be discussed more, I need something loud that draws attention. The blue contrasts the brown of the desert landscape and pops out to those who are driving by on the highway. I chose to use fabric to create the banners because it moves with the wind and would survive better outside, especially because it's spring. Making cyanotypes is very laborious, especially ones this large. I coated everything myself instead of buying the material pre-coated. When the head of my committee, Meg, edited my speech, she said I should explain the labor it took to make the cyanotypes and why the labor is important. I had told a friend earlier this semester that I wanted to make the banners myself because this call out about uranium contamination was starting with me. I'm taking a native art and feminism class. Hi, Marcella. And something we discuss is how feminism is defined by acts of love. Through a feminist lens, making the banners isn't just labor, but an act of love. I want to start a conversation because my community and I deserve to be able to take up space and be seen. We deserve to be cared for and deserve acts of reciprocity and kindness. Making the banners wasn't forced labor, it was something I wanted to do so I could give back to my community. Circling back to bringing sight to the gallery, I'm sure you've noticed I've restricted half of the gallery, like half of it, and put dirt on one side, so everyone's kind of cramped, sorry. I really wanted to recreate an actual tailings pond behind the fence, but that was a bit ambitious, so I settled on bringing in 10 gallons of dirt from the site. I restricted access to half the gallery because all of the walls I hit while doing research. I never got access to the NDAs homeowners were signing. I couldn't speak with the site manager at Homestake. I sometimes felt like what I was being told wasn't true. I know the effects of mining on people and the environment are very real, but we're told that they were not multiple times. I initially wanted the prints to be the size of the back wall, but it was too expensive. I wanted to go photograph the tailings up close, but not only would it be a threat to my health, but all mine sites are on private property. Interview after interview fell through because of the NDAs, so the frustration got very real, and I was trying to figure out a way to physically represent these walls I kept running into. My photo professor, Simone, gave me the amazing idea of restricting access to half of the gallery so my viewers are as restricted as I am, hence the barbed wire. I would like to thank those who were willing to be interviewed: Clifford and June Baca, Terry Fletcher, Shauna Garcia, and Jose Serrato Corrales. Thank you to my mom, dad, sister, and Fernando for being my assistants with filming and creating the banners. A special thank you to my committee. I literally couldn't have done this without you. Thank you to Olivia and Giuliano for helping me through this entire process in more ways than one, and for helping me with the install. Thank you to Andrew Roybal for helping me install, teaching me new skills like booklet making, and for saving me more than once. Thank you to Simone Francis in my advanced photo class for giving me new ideas when my old ones failed. None of this could have been done without community, and I appreciate every single one of you. Thank you for doing. Finally, thank you, Bill, for being an inspiration and for opening my eyes to a very real and serious issue. Thank you again for